Hey there, good afternoon. It is still Wednesday, March 12th, and I'm Rob, that developer dad, and we're back to working on the DM's familiar. This morning we got the edit form, even though it's empty, to render to the screen when we click the edit button that we added in the various places throughout the NPC manager. And we've got it closing when we hit cancel. But alas, we have nothing to edit yet. Although we do see who we're editing when we edit. I thought I got rid of that AI label. That's a silly thing. Let me see what's what in here. Go back to the editors. And I'm also not sharing my screen like a goofball. And I'm just going to rebuild real quick. Excuse me. And I'll go so far as to restart the app. Excuse me. Looks to be running. Let's pretend to edit good old Dorian Vex over here. Edit. There we go. We got rid of that AI tag here. Now, edit fields will appear here. Well, that doesn't do much for us, does it? No, it does not. So we're going to cancel out of there. And let's take a look at the onParametersSet async method on our ObjectEditorForm. This guy is what handles the activity that happens whenever this model instance is not null. Now, I don't think we need this await based on onParametersSet async, but we're going to leave it there anyway. So what I'm going to do, first thing we need is an edit form builder. Private edit form editable. Oh, what did I call that? It is it in my framework? Annotations? Nope, it's not in there. It's in the UI in the services. That's where I stuffed it yesterday. Export services, object services, editable model builder. Edit model builder equals new. All right, cool. And then I'm going to add a public. Well, we got to take a look at what this is. And it returns an edit model of type T. Now this could get us into some trouble here, but we'll figure it out. Definition on edit model T instance. I don't know if I really need that, need this to be generic, because my instance over here is now an iEditable. So we might be able to update some things to eliminate the need for that generic thing. So public edit form or is it edit model? It's edit model. Of iEditable. is an edit model. Okay. So down here, I'm going to say edit model equals edit model builder.build model underscore model instance. Now, I'm not sure that this is going to give us what we need. But we're going to find out. Now let's see, possible code changes were found. I'm not positive that this is actually going to fire up without me doing a full restart. But we're going to find out. I'm going to drop a breakpoint right there. Oh yeah, we got to restart the app with a full rebuild and all that stuff. It's okay. It'll just take a second. Terminal will be reused by tasks. Press any key. Let's reload the UI over here on the other screen. And let's see if we can actually drop a breakpoint here. Nope. All right. Got to do a full stop and restart. Stop. Rebuild. Okay. Restart the app. Now we have our breakpoint. Restart, reload over here. Let's try to load. Something is exploding. I've got an unhandled exception somewhere. And let's scroll up this whole bloody call stack. That's JS interrupt stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Warn. Rendering component. Type provided is not supported by the editable model builder. Of course it isn't. Because it doesn't know to look there. So I think we're going to have to make edit model not generic. And it appears that I am not using that generic anywhere else. So let's just say object. Object instance. There we go. All right, we'll save that. Come out to the editable model builder. It is no longer going to be generic. It's just going to be object. Instance get type. Do that. Save. I'm going to come back out here because edit model is no longer a generic type. Boop. Save. We'll save all. Rebuild the client. Because that edit model builder is a construct inside this client project. And let's get the app running. Restart. Here we go, and we have stopped here on parameters set async. Model instance is a townsperson. You got a dragonborn tavern keeper. They don't have a name. And let's just let it run. Let it run some more. I want to add one more thing here. If model instance is not null and visibility equals true dot as visibility, save. Excuse me. Now, I'm not sure that it's going to honor this stuff. Let's refresh just to see if it starts hitting that breakpoint over and over again. Visibility is hidden. True dot as visibility. Let's see what true dot as ability resolves to is shown. Okay, it didn't respect our change. That's okay. Okay. So that means we need to restart the app. It's okay. No big deal. Just takes a minute. Terminal will be reused. It looks like we're back up and running. Refresh. Oh, and our breakpoint's broken. Rebuild. You find you do this a lot when you're working in Blazor code, because hot reload is more often than not fake news. It sort of works. All right, looks like we did not hit a bunch of this on parameters set async. There's no need to zip in here and do this stuff. So let's see about editing Elo in here. Edit, we're on our breakpoint, our edit model. We've got a list of 5 fields. The instance is a townsperson. We've got the name. We've got her appearance. We've got her vocational description, her background, and all those things. Cool. And let's see what the UI looks like. Here's Element Thistlebrook, Sealy Fay Navigator, edit fields will appear here. Groovy, good, good. All right. So I'm going to pull this over here to the other screen. We're going to stop the project right now. And close out the editable model builder. The edit model, we don't need it. But I do need to see the definition of edit field, because we're going to need to crib from that. Save. I'm going to pull edit field over here in the tab order. And I'm going to tell my buddy Claude, hey buddy, added an edit form, edit model, to the code behind. Here, I'm going to add the code behind to the chat context. There we go. Let's iterate over the fields in its, I guess I do need the edit form thing open. We're in the edit model, go to definition. Yep. Bring edit model over here. In its fields collection and create some input controls bound to the edit model property. I didn't tell it where. We'll see if, or I didn't tell Claude where to put this stuff. So we'll see what happens. That looks interesting. We'll pop that in here. Let it apply. It's doing its thing. And if you can hear a strange buzzing, my son is currently making ice cream in the background in the kitchen not far from me. So we've got our fields on here. This is interesting. We'll see what's what. Field type name to lower. Field display name. I don't think it looked at any of these things. Oh, because of course I haven't exposed any of these inner backing properties as actual usable properties. Hey, C Films, how are you? Any of the fields on the edit field class as usable properties. Let me fix that, and then we'll update the UI code in the object editor form. This will just take me a minute. Prop. Whoop. String. Property path. Property path. Prop. String. Label text. UI label. Prop. String. Input type. max length, and we'll add the field type, and we'll just use arrows for that because property value actually needs to be readable and writable here. Save. I got it handled. Thanks. Way more comfy in .NET than I am in JavaScript. So you'll get to kick back, relax more in this project, the other. Okay, let's update that loop in the object editor form to leverage those properties I've added to EditField. I am working on edit capabilities in the DM's familiar now. Okay. Here's all this stuff. Go ahead and apply that. Now, if this works, I think before I go much further as far as implementing this logic, I actually want to externalize a lot of this stuff. What's all this complaining about? Input type. Edit field. Okay, I'm going to save all of this stuff, even though it thinks there's compile errors in here. There we go. That's better. Now, I do need to come back to Open Editors, rebuild the UI. Boop. And let's see if we can actually get this to render. I think it's gone a little bit crazy. Rebuild. Okay, we had a rebuild error. And it's saying object editor form already contains a definition for quote, quote. What the heck are you talking about? On line 32. come back over here and see what's going on here. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, it just goofed on this whole block here, applying. It happens. So we're back to our outer loop. And div class form grid. I want this div class form group. I want to spin down here. Copy. Paste. Pop down here. Why don't you come down here, mister? And let's take this switch. Pop it in 1 and 2. Pop this div in so that it's there. Save. It's all that stuff. That's fine. Save all. I've noticed that Copilot's really, really, really good with JavaScript and HTML. It isn't as practiced with Razor code and C#. Oh, you added a new city. Right on. Which city did you add? See? All right, let's see what we get. We try to edit Leora. We hit our breakpoint. We've got our edit model. It's got stuff. Yep, good. Run. And we are exploding all over the place. The type system.object does not have an associated type converter that supports conversion from a string. All right, so what are we dealing with here? We've got field. It's an edit field. Input type is text. Now let's see what it's complaining about here. Come on, you gonna let me look at the rest of the stuff here? Switch field input type dot to lower. Case text. I think I'll let it rip. Field.PropertyValue. Okay. Over in EditField, we've got property value. All right. So we're going to change this property value to string. We're going to return ToString or empty. Property value equals value. Fine. It'll just get cast back to an object. Save. We are going to need to do some type checking here later. Save. Stop this, rebuild that. Well, it's rebuilding. I'll interact with C-Films. Federal Way, Washington, right on. Ah, I did not know that Cinnabon is the birth, or that Federal Way, Washington is the birthplace of Cinnabon. My waistband curses the existence of Federal Way because Cinnabon's delicious. Now, let's see if it blows up with this type error again. Okay, here's this. Let's take a look at Alara Voss. Edit. We've hit our breakpoint. I can get rid of this. We know we're getting the stuff out. Pop up in here, and will you look at that? Full name, Alara Voss. Alara has a fair complexion, straight blonde hair that falls just past her shoulders, yada, yada, yada. Boogity, boogity, blobbity, blobbity. Now, I think instead of Alara Voss, I also want to get rid of that AI tag. Excuse me. So yeah, let's get rid of this AI tag identifier here. And we'll now it's going to materially change the way those things are handled. So what I'll do is on EditField, I'm just going to grab the contents of that tag, ToString, and I'm going to surround this with parens, and I'm going to say dot replace with a string dot empty. Save. And let's cancel, and we'll edit Alara again. Okay, didn't take that, so stop. Rebuild the UI. La 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 la. It's built. We'll run. I shall refresh. Here comes Alara. We'll edit you. And we've gotten rid of that AI tag. Thing of beauty. Von Brassberg. All right, now. Oh, right on. I've never been to Seattle. You know that? I grew up in, well, I was a kid in the 80s. And then in the early 90s, I was like late teens, young adult. I turned 18 in 91, just as all of those bands, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, all of the, the big four were really starting to explode on the music scene, and I was hooked from the first time I heard any of them. And I grew up to become a .NET developer, and I have still never been to Seattle. That's sinful. Okay, so I think the first thing we got to do is add some styling to these things and get the rendering proper. So I want to see what these guys look like here. So full name, Alara von Brasberg. I want to inspect this element and see if it's a text box or a text area. It's a text box. Yeah, let's spin that out a little bit. Come on, pointer, shrink this down a touch. So full name is absolutely a text box with a max length of 50. This is a text box with a max length of 500, so that's good. All right. Now, there's no sense in trying to keep that up on screen while we go. And I also want to do that. All right. Yeah, that's not great. Case text. You've never had coffee. Coffee is a wonderful and horrible thing because it is habituating. All right, field.PropertyValue, ID equals field.PropertyPath. Okie dokie, all of this stuff. All right. We're binding nicely. First thing we should do is when the field.input type is text, although I thought I saw text area. And let me go take a look at the specs that I've added to Townsperson. So full name is just text, but let's go to character appearance. And the description on this guy is text area. Okay. We're good. We need to implement a case for text area now. I want these input elements to allow, say, 7 lines, be scrollable if needed, but not resizable. But not provide a resize handle. .NET's a lot of fun, man. I like .NET. Okay, so there's that. Here's this. I'm just going to grab this, copy it, and I'm going to paste it in here. And just boop that stuff up. Fix the indentation. Save. What's all this complaining about? Oh, I jacked something up. Row 7, break. What did I just explode? Edit field does not contain. What are you even talking about? This thing's lost its bloody mind. Okay, problems went away. Fine. We'll do it manually. Case text area. Break. Not base. Break. Text area. ID equals at field.PropertyPath at bind equals field.PropertyValue and bind event is on input. Max length equals at field.maxLength rows equals 7. On input seems to be working fine here. What's that complaining about? I'll just tuck that up in there. Save. The at bind event equals on input looks okay for the other input controls we're adding, but on the text area element, it's a very angry red in my code editor. Any clues? I mean, I don't have any problems here. Add on input. Okay. args. Just pop up in here, copy this, scroll all the way back to where I've begun to copy, paste that there. Save. I feel like I should probably just stop the project, rebuild the code, and restart it. Let's see what we get. Oh, that's the Townsfolk Manager, you silly goose. I need to rebuild the Blazor client. Rebuild. All right. Rebuild is done. Let's stat the project. Reload. Here it comes. And let's edit element. That's better. That's much better. Okay. How does this look as it shrinks up? Not bad at all. Not bad at all. However, we've got these resize handles. Okay. Much better with the text areas. Now, we do have those pesky resize handles on them, though. I'd like them to not be resizable, the user. And I'm asking AI because I can't remember what if there's like a no resize or whatever. Okay. Looks like it's got to be done through CSS. There's no attribute on the HTML element tag for text area for that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. The HTML specification is odd. It's not as bad as it used to be, but there's a lot of stuff that is inconsistent from one type of tag to the next that is very, very surprising unless you understand the underlying reasons for those decisions, and I don't. So I guess we're going to have to create, all right, let's set up a scoped CSS file for the object editor form. I'll add it to the project, and then we'll start styling these form elements. Just a sec. I don't like letting Copilot loose on the file and folder structure because I have seen it do some weird things. So we're going to add a new file. It's going to be a custom file unless I have style sheet in here. No, I don't. It's going to be custom. And it needs to be called ObjectEditorForm dot razor.css. Bam. There it is. And you can see that it's already gotten tucked up in here. We're good. Now, I'm going to go back to the chat. The file's been added. Let's add style rules for those classes that are defined in ObjectEditorForm and nowhere else. That's the code behind. Hint. The editor form specific CSS classes were all added by you, and the elements that use them are all encapsulated in the main element in the razor file. I feel like I have to be explicit. Is there any part of this project I want to make more automated? I need some better context for that question, C Films. I feel like you've asked me that before, and I don't feel like I've necessarily answered your question satisfactorily. Do you mean like generating the code, or do you mean UI testing, things like that? I would love to get some automated UI testing, but I don't know the first thing about doing that. All right, so here's all this stuff. Auto fit, min-max, 300 pixels, yabbity, yabbity, yabbity. We're gonna mess with this stuff. I've never worked with grid layouts, but I'm gonna learn today. So because we're using scoped CSS, I do need to bounce out of here and rebuild this. I'd love to get some automated UI testing in place. Generating the data, the web scraping. Actually, as far as the underlying data for that feeds into the rule sets, I've actually got a pretty nice flow going with between me and my buddy Claude over here, because right now all of the underlying data for the rule set, all of the lists and this and that and the other thing, are actually hard-coded instances of the rule set template classes and everything like that. And the reason they're hard-coded is because I don't foresee those changing very often, if at all. Now, because I'm basing this loosely on D&D 5e. Now, when I get to setting up a database of the critters that are available for use in creating D&D 5e games, I will be ingesting those from the system reference document published by Wizards, but I've actually been offline once in a while having conversations with, I think I've been doing most of that work at in ChatGPT itself. And I really just need to get it at a point where I've got enough context quota available to say, here is my data format rip through this section of this PDF document and push all of the monster stat blocks and descriptions and so on into this data format and output it for me. And if I can't do that with the free version of ChatGPT, I'll just write something, because I believe I've got access to some of those kinds of capabilities through Azure OpenAI, through the Azure OpenAI subscription that I've got. And I feel like it shouldn't cost me all that much in terms of token consumption or what have you, once I've ingested and indexed the SRD. I haven't messed with web scraping in a long time. I've done it quite a bit in the past, but honestly, these days, if I need something to scrape the web for me, I'll just ask Bing AI to do it, rather than have to write the logic to handle all of the crap that these dynamic website builders inject into and around the content, and like those AdWords. Those things are a bane of my existence when I'm trying to extract data from a website. But yeah, there's tools for that kind of automation. I don't tend to use them programmatically very often. When I need to create a data set from stuff, though, either I'll write some code to do it. I don't love that. I mean, it's okay, but it's not fantastic. Let's see what happens when I do that. Okay, so that scrolls. Now, that ain't bad. That ain't bad, but I feel like we need some differentiation around what's going on with these controls. Because it's all right, but it's very read-only. Excuse me. Form group label, that's fine. Text box input. See, these are all getting lost. Resize, min height is 7 EM, line height is 1.12. I don't have a border color or an input background. So the border color, I am going to go with, I believe I've got access to these. And I believe the name of that color variable is color accent dark. The text color will be color accent dark. Save all that stuff. Now this actually does need to be recompiled into the view. So before I shut it down and bring it back up, I am going to go out to my styles, wherever you may live, out here. And I've got my base bars and my named colors. Where are you? Here we go. Color light yellow, accent red, accent light, color accent dark. Let's go color white. Color white? Yeah, color white for the input background. Color, let's just bring in some nice titanium white. Save, stop, rebuild. Oh, manually updating the database. Like you open up like a, I don't know, are you using Postgres or, oh, you're using MariaDB, aren't you? If I remember right, C-Films. So I assume that MariaDB has some kind of some kind of UI that allows editing, I would hope, because just like issuing SQL commands from a command line, like through curl or whatever, that sounds like a nightmare. Like doing all that stuff through the command line, no thank you. This is significantly better. But I'm not sure I like that, the two-column thing. I do like it for other purposes, but I'm not sure I like it here. I think what I want to do okay, this is looking much better. I've tweaked the color setup you suggested to use the color variables I have declared in the root level CSS for the app. The only thing I'm not in love with here is the use of the multi-column grid layout. I think I'd rather have all the editable fields in a single column. That uses no more than 66% of the width on desktop mode, but on single column that uses 100% of the available width, the parent width for the object editor form. This will be the default setting. We'll override that 100% width value for larger screens via media query in our CSS file. Let's get the stack layout first, then we can mess with the responsiveness. Aspects. Programming in English is really different, but I know that there are .NET connectors for MariaDB. A fun project to kind of stretch your wings if you're curious to do so would be to use Copilot like I am if you've got access to it. I believe there's a free version of GitHub Copilot now. And see if you can talk it through building a front end for updating your database that is, a little easier to use for you than whatever tools you've got for editing your CFilms data. Just, as a learning experience and as an experiment and so on and so forth. All right, let's keep these. I'll save all. And just purely for laughs, let's see if I actually have to bounce out and, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to stop and recompile. That's okay. Editors. Here we are. Recompile. That is the downside to using these scope CSS files, is when you change them in a Blazor app, when you change your CSS down in the web root, they occasionally update automatically on screen as you make those changes. When you're using a component scoped CSS file, it doesn't actually take effect until you stop, recompile, and rerun. Or at least that's my experience. And if you are an expert Blazor developer and know otherwise, please leave me a comment on this video, because I crave knowledge. We're running, and when I'm doing something wrong, I am more than happy to be told I'm doing something wrong. All right, so we've got these back to the way they were. Fantastic. Let's see about tab order. Whoop. Nice. Okay. So, yeah, I get that, C-Films. The more files there are, the less efficient it can be. And the harder to keep track of things it is. That's why I really like compiled projects, because this whole thing, I mean, I've got probably 11 or 12 discrete projects. It compiles down to probably 11 or 12 discrete DLLs. And that plus, whatever is required to run the ASP.NET framework are what gets stuffed into the Docker container. And then that Docker container gets stood up in the Azure App Service. So let's take a look here. So we've got our form grid. We've got a good bit of back and forth here. I do have some horizontal scrolling. So form grid, I think rather than being 100%, I want to go with 90%. We're going to save that. And of course, stop, rebuild. Keep an eye on this. We're good. Run the app. I mean, that database update utility that you have could just be something that, you push the source code up to GitHub, but it just runs on your local laptop. And whenever you need to do some database updates, you spin it up and do your work. And then when you're done, you quit the app and life is good. If that's something you were interested in pursuing. And I've dragged my screen view out of scope of the window. Let's see what we got now. Edit. All right, that's better. That's much better. Okay, now one last tweak. So my form grid, it's now taking up about no more than 90%. I'm going to bump that to 95. Save. Now out here, form grid, main, I'm going to add a little override here. Style equals justify content center. Align items center. What even are you doing, you silly goose? I don't need that closing main tag. Stop that. Save. And I should probably just rebuild and rerun rather than waste my time. So we've rebuilt. We shall rerun, reload. So here's this. Let's edit. That looks pretty good. And then if we shrink it down, we're still in really good shape. However, we've got some overflow here. Do I have that overflow over here? I don't. Ooh, that's tiny. That's no good. I'll have to fix that up. I'll make a note. On NPC list view, when the screen is shrunk to minimum width, the text in the edit button goes bye-bye. Needs an icon. Then we'll have that icon. On the editor view, we have some horizontal scrolling. And let's see why. I'm going to pull this and see how long it lasts before it vanishes. So it comes in about here. I wonder if it's because we've got some explicitly defined widths somewhere. Don't appear to. So we'll inspect the element. And I'm going to bring up my web inspector. Here's this. So that's the header. Let's just do this. Shrink this over so that we can see what's what as we get through it here. Shrink it some more. Styles, that's what I want. Okay, so there's the form grid. So our class itself is 606 pixels wide. The header is 598. Main is 598. And our form is 580. Form group 548. All the way down. 580 versus 598. I feel like that it's this scroll bar. Not losing anything. Who owns the scroll bar? Let's play with it. Excuse me. And this will be the last thing I mess with today. Tomorrow, we're going to see about capturing the changes in these input elements and detecting is dirty, because when it's not dirty, I want to disable reset. When I haven't got any changes here, I want to disable reset and save changes. As soon as there's a change, I want to wake these guys back up. But we're going to do that tomorrow morning. I might also want to tighten this up a little bit up top here. Back to list. Let's view this. Yeah. Yeah, definitely want to tighten that up considerably. But we've got a really good starting point here for our edit grid, or for our edit controls. I don't mind this one bit. And this is just basic stuff. I do want to fix that horizontal scroll bar, overflow, X, hidden, save. Oh, what's it complaining about? What did you do, Copilot? Okay, it didn't add an extraneous main close tag there. Save. I'm going to see if this actually worked in a hot reload scenario. Hey, we're good. That extra scroll bar is gone. We're good. I like it. This works nicely. We can hit cancel, edit a different guy. Take a look at Alara, cancel. We can create, edit. So I want to get basic functionality in place first. That means when we load, if there's nothing different between the values of these text areas and the underlying model, reset and save changes are out. If, or otherwise, we can always just cancel. We can always cancel and bail. And then once that's working and I've got the basic functionality, I want to have the ability to apply changes made to these controls to the properties in the underlying model. That'll probably be tomorrow afternoon. And then I think I need to bring in some better labeling on these. And I'm going to have to take a look at how I am computing that stuff. And take a look at how custom attributes work. I'm wondering if I can specify a callback or specify a callback function in an attribute. I'm going to find out offline. I won't implement it, or maybe I will. Maybe I'll implement one, or I'll get the mechanic figured out, get it implemented against the Townsperson object, and then talk through what I did. That feels better. But yeah, Okay, so notes to self. I want to get, when we're in like a full screen mode, I kind of want to set a maximum width on that because that's a little wide and hard to read, especially with this is an itty bitty font size. And when I'm trying to read and edit on a full screen and it's going all the way across, my eyes are going to just bug out of my head. So that's no good. It's fine in a mobile view. Sucks in full screen. So I think we're gonna squish that in a little bit. Matter of fact, let's just add that media query. Apple I. Let's add a media query for large screens here. I'll get the min width in a little bit. Pick one for now. In larger render contexts, I want to constrain the width of the form grid to no more than 60% of the available width. Accept, save, and this is the final thing. Because I did say I was going to set up this media query earlier, and I do want to get that knocked out. Okay, we'll run the app. Refresh. Got a nice big fat screen right now. So we'll edit. All right, so there's that. I think I still want to center it. But when we shrink the screen, and I'll just do this ever so slowly. There we go. We pop out to full width. This looks about as big as it'll be on a tablet. And then, of course, we shrink down the phone size, and we're groovy. Form grid with 60. All right. And I do want it centered. Okay, so this isn't centered on a large screen, and it's kind of bugging my sense of visual balance here, but I'm not gonna monkey around with that CSS while I'm live. I'll get this resolved offline. But yeah, this will work. And then tomorrow, we're going to start making sure that when we make changes in here, they update as necessary elsewhere. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you next time. And until then, happy coding.